Hi, good day, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Step Up right here on Live CBN. Now, you know the drill. Get your coffee or get your hot chocolate and get something cold because I believe it's summer. So, right here in the mother city, do what you do while get your girlfriends on the line. Today, with me, I've got none other than a very special man in my life, Dr. Gerhard Kotze, and welcome to your own network.
Thank you, Chantal. We really do groundbreaking work here. There was not too long ago that I interviewed you on your very first program,
That's
and
true.
now you interview me on my network. Thank you. We're really doing groundbreaking stuff here.
Dr. Gerhard, we have spoken so many times about so many things, and as we all know, this is a program for women, but it's now also turned over to men watching the program. But one of the things that is always intriguing to me about your life is you have had an amazing story growing up. You were a white man in the apartheid era in South Africa, growing up amongst the colored community with amazing women. And today, if I can dedicate this program, I'm gonna dedicate this program to phenomenal women, phenomenal grandmothers, phenomenal nannies, if I can put it like that, that has raised us as children of this time. You have an amazing story, and I always tell you I would love to be a part of the movie that you one day make, to tell your story on film. And I hope we will have the privilege of doing that one day. But Dr. Gerhard, you grew up under very, very, I won't say dark, but I'll say heavy circumstances. But you had a woman in your life that impacted your life to this very day. Talk to us about her.
I always joke, I said that scripture came to fulfillment in my life, that I will be blessed amongst the women. I had the privilege of having 3 women in my life, each one of them playing a different role. Obviously, the very first person was my mom. But at a very early age, my mom and dad got divorced, and my dad, very ambitious, went overseas to Rio de Janeiro, and he left my mom basically with 3 children and a young newborn. My mom decided she couldn't cope. She was a nurse and she wanted to obviously provide, but she couldn't provide. She had to get somebody to look after this baby very soon. And what she did was she sent me to my grandmother. But before I went to my grandmother, we had a domestic servant that lived, in our house. Her name was Edie. She always prophesied. Now, she was very far from being
A prophet.
a prophet or Christian, so to speak. But she was someone who always said, it will be a fair-haired boy with blue eyes, and he will be a minister one day. And the day when I was born, I was a fair-haired boy with blue eyes. Now I still have the blue eyes, but not the fair hair anymore. So that was the vision that she had. And my mom then sent me to my grandmother, and for the first 4 or 5 years of my life, I spent in the countryside. I was raised very far from the city, very far from, the turmoil and in the heart of the apartheid era. When I came back, I met the 3rd woman in my life. Now, my grandmother played a vital role in my life. She always prayed for us. She prayed for my mom. She prayed for the children. And I heard her pray for me.
Wow.
At nighttime, when I was in bed, she would kneel down and she would mention my name before God. And she would read me Psalm 37, always pointing out, that the evil people, they will disappear somewhere along the line.
Wow.
So make sure that you don't mix yourself or mix with evil people. So then my journey started with this incredible woman. And I'm glad that you dedicate this program to phenomenal women, because this was a phenomenal woman who never got the credit, and most probably will never get the full credit to what she has done in my life, because many of the credit, she's the one who should take it, because she raised me. You see, my mom was a nurse and she had to walk 30 kilometers a day, which was very difficult for her. She worked long shifts, 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and later on, to get a better income, she worked permanently night shift. So she would start 7 o'clock in the evening till 7 o'clock in the morning. And then it was very difficult for her to walk home, which was about 15 kilometers. So it take quite a substantial amount of time just to walk from work to home because she didn't have enough money for transport. So my mom stayed over in the nurse's home. And this is how my two sisters and I was actually raised by this domestic servant. On some weekends when my sisters used to go and play with friends and sleep over, Edie would take me away into the colored community. Now, Chantal, you most probably very well know, and everybody in the world is familiar with the apartheid era. But you know what? Sometimes when you look at the apartheid era, the tendency is just to look at one color group and say this was the oppression that one color group actually experienced. But here I was, a white boy, in the heart of this rules that the government made. So I experienced rejection by the colored people because I was white. By the white people, I was rejected because I spoke the colored slang. So I struggled with the identity crisis. So this woman raised me to the best of her ability. Now, I know you're going to ask me more questions, but I would just like to continue and finishing off with the first part of the story. In the heart of the apartheid era, people are aware of, there was signs across South Africa, especially on the beaches, on the toilets, on the benches, that said whites only. Now, this made it very difficult for Edie to take me to the toilet as a young boy. So what she did, she would ask a woman just to take me in and stand by the door. She was not allowed to take me into the sea. She would ask people to take me into the sea so that I can get my feet wet. But she explained to them very clearly what will happen to them if something happens to me. She was very protective. So in the colored community, I experienced a lot of oppression because I was bullied by the colored children because of the fact that I was white, because the parents told them white was bad. If you were white, you were bad. So they would sometimes hit me, steal my cars, my toys that I had. So it was a constant battle. Then I got to the white school, and all of a sudden I spoke mostly with a colored slang. That in itself became a problem because now parents wouldn't let their children sit next to me because I was now like what they would call the mixed breed, so to speak. Because how could I speak like that? So Chantal, this woman, not once in my entire life as a young boy, I can recall one single moment or one day where she sat us down, or my mother or us, or anybody for that matter, and said to them, I'm upset with this apartheid thing. I'm upset that I may not go onto the beach. She never did complain once. She earned 6 rand. Now, friends, that is not even $1. That's maybe 50 cents when it's compared to the South Africa or to the dollar rate, or maybe far less, 25 cents, so to speak, for a month.
Wow.
And then she would buy me a little underpants and buy herself a packet of Cavala Plain, which was cigarettes, and she would buy herself something to drink to still the pain inside of her.
Wow.
But this is how I was raised, and everything that I am today, and most probably will hope to be in the future, obviously God gets all the credit, but He used someone so inferior, so small compared to the eyes of the world and through the glasses of the world, such a powerful woman that invested into my life so that I can be where I am today.
Yeah. We're talking today about women that has made phenomenal impact in the lives of so many people. Maybe you are one of those people that has been impacted, or your life took a different course because of a woman. I remember back in my life, Gerard, my grandmother, Eva Whites, today, if I mention her name, something moves in my heart. Because again, she was the one praying for the whole Whites family. My father, even back in the day when my father was still drinking, when he was not serving God at the time, he used to speak about his mother for hours. We all know her. You go to the Northern Cape now and you ask people your age, a little bit older than I am, do you know what E.F.R. White? They will ask you the prayer warrior. You know, so today we're dedicating this program to women, phenomenal women that has made impact into your life. And today we're looking at a product of an unsaved woman. And here is the thing of an unsaved woman. I don't know Edie from nowhere. I only know Edie. And I love this Edie because of who you are, who you have become. So if Edie wasn't in your life, Gerard, what do you have an understanding what could have happened? Because we don't know. But how different would your life have been? Because your mother was not really there all the time.
You know what, Chantal? That thought crossed my mind several times. But I can see that she was an angel on assignment. A wonderful, wonderful lady. Now, let me not leave this behind. My mom, in her own right, struggled to keep herself afloat.
Basically.
Yeah. It was very difficult for her to survive with a very poor salary and 3 children and a father that just left us, abandoned us, so to speak. The thing for me was that I recall when I came home for the first time, I smelled alcohol on my mom. And I always knew from the farm that the farm workers were drunk.
Wow.
And because they were drunk, the response of my uncle that was the farmer or my grandmother, they were always angry at these people because they weren't good people if they were drunk.
Yeah.
So the connotation of alcohol and the smell of alcohol was a negative one for me. So when I smelled the alcohol on my mom the first time that I met her, such a resistance built up inside of me. I recall that I started running in the road and I wanted to run away from home. And the man who actually fetched me on the farm with my grandmother, he ran and he caught me and he brought me back. And I remember taking me into the house. And as I stepped into this house, behind my mom was this colored woman reaching out to me in a soft, gentle way, pressing me against her body and holding me. That was the first comfort. You must remember, my grandmother was a farming lady. She comes from an area where there was a lot of drought. So they were hard people. They were pioneers. They were fighters of survival, trying to fight against the drought and having a farm, trying to survive and cope with all the elements of nature against them. So she was a very hard woman. I never recall that once she hugged me. I can't even recall that my mom said to me that she loves me, or my grandmother for that matter. But I recall Edie as the one who always said that she loves me, she cares about me. And she would always say, your mom loves you very much. Your father loves you very much. Although I didn't know my dad, she was always the one who became the mediator, who was actually the advocate for my mom and my grandmother, because I could never understand why they could never say that they love me. So there was a much deeper role that she actually fulfilled. And I think if she wasn't in my life to answer that question, I think I would have struggled to come to terms with the word love, to understand what is love. And I think I struggled for a very big time, part of my life. I could easily isolate myself. I could easily withdraw from society because I was used to the fact. If there was no reaching out to me, I wouldn't reach out. I would back up. But today I've got a better understanding of what it's like to be loved by someone who loves you unconditionally. And it was difficult for her. Trust me, it was difficult for her because she had her own son that she could never see. But also, she couldn't bring him into our house because the law didn't allow that. The fact that she lived inside our house was already something.
I almost want to say against the rules.
It was against the law. Because those days, if they found a colored woman in your house, there was a law called affirmative action. Not affirmative action, there was a...
I know the Afrikaans word, so yeah.
Yeah, so there was a law that said that the groups may not mix. So they wouldn't understand what she was doing in our home. But because of my mom paying her so little, she couldn't travel. and she had a room inside our house, almost like the times of the Second World War, where the Jews were hidden
Yeah.
by other people, like
Yes.
Anne Frank for that matter. But that was the time that we actually hid her inside our home.
Wow.
And
And
she was there.
you actually, sorry, you actually hosted an angel preparing you for where you're going.
You know what, Chantal? I always struggle to fight back that emotion, because something happened to me a couple of months ago when I saw photos of her for the first time in many years. I always thought that this was one woman that I never had one single photograph of. Because, you know, I'm not afraid to say that I had a stepfather that he wasn't pro her. And the day when my stepfather got married to my mother, that was one of the first conditions, that he wouldn't want her in the home. He wouldn't want a colored lady in the house. So he ripped our hearts apart. He ripped our whole world apart. Other than the difficult circumstances that we lived under, he took away our anchor. And that was the darkest day in our lives, to that extent that it had such an impact on my sister's life that they moved out of the house. When they were 17, 18, they moved out and they left me behind with a stepdad that wasn't user-friendly. So it was very difficult, and it was hard for me to forgive him for taking away the love of my life, so to speak. And when I saw the photos the other day, something just stirred inside of me. So I want to say to anybody, maybe you're a domestic servant, maybe you're working in somebody's house, maybe you're working for somebody else, you're just a laborer, but you never know what assignment God can put you on.
We're going to take a break and we're going to come right back, and we're going to talk about angels that has transformed our lives. Ordinary women doing extraordinary things, and maybe you never had the ability to thank them personally, but we trust and believe wherever they are looking from, that they see what God is doing in your life and what they've invested. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Chantal White from Step Up. I'm very excited to share this news with you. Step Up is now on Live CBN. This is a ministry for single women. Oh, but not just single women, for women right around the world, and even men. If you want to join me, tune in every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock. We have a repeat session of the Tuesday evening on a Wednesday, 12:30, and a Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock. You can follow me on www.livecbn.com. All the information is at the bottom of the screen. I look forward to share amazing testimonies and amazing topics with you. Don't miss one single episode of Step Up. See you soon, ladies. Hi ladies, welcome back to Step Up. Today it's a little bit, we're talking about a very serious topic. We're talking about women or people that has made impact in your life. Well, let me say woman, because we're talking to women that has done phenomenal things in my life. There's a woman called Eva Whites, but then there's so many other women also in my life. Sarah Morgan, that is my spiritual mother in my life, that has impacted my life, not in a dark time, but in a time where God was raising me up. And we're speaking to Dr. Gerhard Kotze, and a woman, and I almost want to say today, Gerhard, as your spiritual daughter, seeing how God is using you and what God is doing in your life, and God is using you to fulfill so many people's lives, I want to say that we're going to dedicate this program to Edie. We're going to dedicate this program to a woman that never ever knew me, never. But she has impacted my life through a child that she raised named Gerhard Kotze. Gerhard, what would you say to Edie if you can say something to her?
You're touching my heart now. I think thank you would be a very cheap word. In this context, what I would say is, why did you do this? Why did you walk that extra mile when you were persecuted, when you were mocked, when you experienced animosity from people? Why did you do this? And the only reason why I wanted to ask that is because I wanted to actually find out if she wasn't really an angel. But one thing that I want to say to her is that I wish I had a little bit longer, more time with her to show her what has happened to me in my life. So if I could convey that to her and say, I'm so sorry that you had to leave this earth before the major breakthroughs in my life, that you could have shared that, and that I could have created an opportunity for her to find a place where she can stay and where she can retire and live, a respectful life and a meaningful life with the best medical care that she needed.
I want to ask you something that I'm sure many viewers are thinking at the same time now. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the viewers. When you reach heights in your life that you know this is God, like when you started the network, when you started the radio, when you started Amazing Grace, and it is excelled and God's glory is present and visible, is that moments where you look back and think, Edie, I wish you can see this?
Absolutely, Chantal. It goes without saying, it's synonymous with my life. Whenever I stand before a big decision, especially like life, and the radio for that matter, even from the start of Amazing Grace, I recall there was a time when I walked on an open field of a school. The very first time when we started, I didn't know that anybody's going to pitch. But I recall walking on the field, and I thank God for the opportunity, and I said, God, if there's nobody here today, I still thank you for the opportunity that I have to be here. But what crossed my mind was this: Edie, this is because of you, for giving me life. Because you see, if she didn't take care of me, now we don't have time. There was times I was so skinny, the wind blew me from left to right, which is the truth. She put a brick in a rucksack on my back and told me to hold onto a pole when the wind blows, because in the Western Cape we call it the doctor, the Cape doctor.
The Cape doctor.
And that is the southeast wind. It's very strong.
It blows everything away.
It blows everything away. And the wind really blew me from left to right. And she actually put a brick in my rucksack. She took care of me in every single way of my life. She walked from shop to shop to collect bruised fruit, and she would cut that out to make sure that we get the best nutrition.
Wow.
To make sure that we get the vegetables. She would collect all the vegetables and all the fruit, and she would make sure that all the bad bruises are cut out, and she would make sure that we will get a balanced meal. So if I look back over my life, many times, even with life, if ever I get an opportunity, I'm busy writing my book. I've waited a very long time. Slowly but surely I'm moving forward in finishing that book. But it would be absolutely to give credit to somebody that nobody knows about. Very few people really know about this woman and what she's done. They just see the result, but nobody gives the credit. So dedicating anything to her is giving the credit, I want to say, far less than what she deserves.
We want to say to Edie today that, Edie, I want to thank you for preparing a blessing for me. Thank you for preparing, that you prepared a man that is part of my assignment on this earth, in my life and in my time. So may God, wherever you are, may He bless the people, your bloodline that you left behind. And Gerard, what would you say to all the other Edies?
Don't ever despise the day of small beginnings. Don't ever despise what you are doing. Maybe you're not educated. Maybe you can only be a domestic servant, or you can be a laborer. Maybe that's all that you qualified for. But you know what? That doesn't determine who you are. Because your heart is far greater than your actions. And what your actions is showing is a fraction of what is in your heart.
Amen.
And I want to encourage you. You might be on an incredible assignment. And the only way you're going to recognize that assignment if you start looking away from the things that bother you, Focus on what God has placed you, why He has placed you on this earth. And once you can do that, you will create and establish people that God will use mightily. Like a Moses, you see, when Miriam put him on the water, that's the only thing she did. But by doing that, she saved an entire nation.
Amen.
More than 4 million people she saved by just obeying her mom's instruction. And this is what I want to say. Fulfill the small callings in your life. You might not get the credit on this earth, but one day God will show you on that big screen what you've managed to do with the right attitude.
Ladies, this is all we have for today. I believe, I don't even doubt for a second that you've been blessed. And to all the Edis, to all the Miriams, to all the women that has walked with you in your life, maybe they are never there, to the Eva Whites, the grandmothers, the great grandmothers. I want to say this episode today has been dedicated to you. Edie, this is for you. May God continue to bless all of you. Until next time, Dr. Gerhard, thank you.
Thank you, Chantel. See you soon.
Bless you, ladies.